And good evening, Red Sox fans. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Believe in Red Sox podcast. Ellis, man, how you doing? How's everything going?
Everything's great. Good to see you. It's been a couple of weeks.
Yes, it has been
That's fine.
not very eventful. Not a whole lot going on. It's kind of like how August is like the dog days of the season.
Sure.
January, right around this time feels like the dog days of the off season. Most of the free agents are off the board. You're looking more at trades as of right now, but trades, they tend to be a little more on the slower side. So
Sure.
not a whole lot of activity, but we do have quite a bit to talk about over the last couple of weeks. We've had some not great news with Trevor Story, and but they are making some moves. They did make a move today, signing Adam Duvall. We're going to dive into all of that, and we're going to go over some options as well of what else they could add, because there are still a couple of areas of the team that still do need to be tweaked, and we're getting pretty close here. We're under, I think, a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. So I got to ask you real quick before we really dive in everything. Around this time, when you were in your playing days, you're less than a month out. What are you doing as of right now? Like, are you kind of getting prepared for the season? Like, what are you doing as of right now during your playing days?
No, you're still working out. You're still getting the BP in, but most of all, you're finalizing everything around your home because you're going to be away for so long. So you're getting everything squared away as far as who's going to be in the house. If your girlfriend, your wife, or whomever is going to be taking care of things for you, or your parents, depending on who you are. But it's just you're getting mentally prepared for the upcoming season because, like I said, it's a grind. It's not one of these little sprints. It's a marathon type thing. So you have to really take your time and be patient with everything.
So I guess my next question is, I guess it depends on how long you've been playing, but are you feeling pretty excited at this point, or are you are you more focused on just kind of getting all the logistics done?
Well, it really depends on what kind of year you had prior. I mean, if you had one of these banner years where, you just want to continue that. But if you had a bad year, you're ready to get back out there and prove to everyone, hey, that was just a bad year on my part. Yeah. I'm going to show you this year. And trust me, as a player, you think about that all the time.
Yeah. And you made a good point a second ago too, what's going on with family. I think people forget, these guys that are, playing, they got wives, they have kids, they got a whole lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes that they got to take care of. Maybe if they're just signed with a new team, they're still figuring out living situations and whatnot. But I would have to say, you start to get those, I would think that you start to get, pretty excited. I would think most baseball players are kind of excited to get back together with the team and, just get back to work. So, but yeah, we're getting close. Pitchers and catchers are reporting soon. But before we do dive into everything, we have to go over our sponsor for today's episode, and that is Bet Online. Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL playoffs to pro and college basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. With live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. So let's dive into it. We do have a little bit of catching up to do. We got to talk Trevor Story. We had some bad news with Trevor Story. So let's share the screen here. And I think most people know what is going on here with Trevor Story. Unfortunately, he's getting, I guess you could call a modified version of Tommy John. We have talked about his arm before. There was some speculation that he could move back to shortstop, and it looks like that's what he was preparing to do. like you were just talking about, you're getting ready for the season. He was working out at shortstop this past offseason, started getting some discomfort in his elbow, and that's when they had to make the call. And so it's looking like we're probably not going to see Trevor Story at least until probably around the All-Star break at minimum. So quick reactions, Ellis. What are you thinking here, with Trevor Story and the arm?
Well, you definitely want Trevor to be healthy. You've seen what he can do when he's healthy. He had a little stint on the DL, the IR last year. But, I'm sure everyone's disappointed. I'm sure he's disappointed about this upcoming season that he's going to start out on the IR and not be available until the All-Star break. As a player, that's one thing you want to be. You want to be available for your team, especially a new team. You're coming in, this big signee. Now, all of a sudden, you've been hurt a couple of times, but that's something that it's going to happen in baseball. It's going to happen in any sport, but you just have to be ready for that. But everyone is anticipating he coming back 100%, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for that was a bit of a concern when he did sign. People were wondering, like, is he going to be a shortstop? He ended up signing more as a second baseman, and hey, in the end, I'd rather him get this done now. And the Red Sox look at other options. Now, getting to the news from today, people were wondering, there was a couple of ways they could have attacked this. They could have gone after, another infielder. There were reports out. Well, actually, Chaim Bloom said himself, he'd be okay with maybe adding a couple infielders. But you could also go after an outfielder, someone that can play center field, because you do have the luxury of Kike Hernandez, who could move to shortstop. He has played there in his career. He could also move to second base. He's played a lot more second base in his career. But as of today, big news for the Red Sox. They have signed Adam Duvall. Let's actually share the screen here. Let's go take a look at some numbers. But with Adam Duvall, there is a lot to like with him. Unfortunately, he was hurt last year. He ended up getting surgery on his wrist. But this is a guy, right-handed bat, 38 home runs a couple of years ago, 113 RBIs, a 491 slugging. I mean, we've talked a lot about how the Red Sox missed Hunter Renfroe this past year. This feels like, almost exactly like Hunter Renfroe right here, a power-hitting right-handed bat. But the thing with Adam Duvall is he can go out there and play some center field. It's not going to be the most amazing center field, but he can get the job done. Just got to hear your quick reactions. What are your thoughts here? Adding, a power bat like this, and someone that is coming off of an injury.
Yeah, well, a guy like Adam Duvall, who can play multiple positions, all three outfield positions, can put him in the infield if need be. But he's one of those power hitters. Like you said, 38 home runs a couple of years ago. He has the power. It's just a matter of him staying healthy as well. He's coming to Fenway. Hopefully he can have a bounce back season, get back on that home run, little trot that he had for, a few years. But I tell you what, you're talking about some power. He's a right-handed batter with some good pop in his bat. Sometimes a little swing and miss at times, but, that's expected for a home run hitter. But I tell you what, a good sign for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Just a 1 year, $7 million deal. He could get some incentives in there based off of playing time and performance. But I like it a lot. Sure, like you said, there are going to be some strikeouts. But, when you got a guy that can drive in possibly 100 runs, this is, like I said, this is basically Hunter Renfroe here. This is what the Red Sox, they were missing this last year. But hopefully they can, have him just be healthy and he can just be productive. And, but he had the surgery. And that was back in July on his wrist. So I think it's been plenty of time now to where he can start getting back into the swing of things, come into spring training, and should be good to go. But so now you have Adam Duvall, who most likely is going to be playing center field for the most part. He is a right-handed bat, so you still do have a left-handed bat in Jarren Duran, so I think that is possible too, that he could get in on the mix. You could do a slight platoon out there. We'll just have to wait and see how things play out. But like I was saying earlier, with Kike Hernandez, it is now projected that he is going to be the shortstop, at least as of right now. With Kike Hernandez, if you take a look at his history in the field, he's played a lot of second base, about 1,700 innings in his career, 18 defensive runs saved in his career there. Whereas at shortstop, not a whole lot of shortstop. He's definitely played a lot there. 618 innings combined in his career. He did play a little bit there last year, but it's funny with Kike. Anywhere he plays, he'll just give you some good defense. So now the question is he going to be the shortstop or is he going to be the second baseman? And let's be honest here. I do think he is going to, get some starts out in center field as well. That's the luxury of Kike is he can, he can move around. So days Adam Duvall needs to take a seat. You got Kike out there. So a lot of flexibility on this team. And I'm starting to like the way the lineup is coming together. Yep. But there have been some reports that the Red Sox are showing interest in Elvis Andrus and Jerickson Profar. Jerickson Profar played a lot of left field last year, but he could also play second base. He's played there a lot in his career. I got to ask you just your personal opinion. Where would you like to see the Red Sox go here? Would you be okay with just having Kike play short and go after maybe, a second baseman? Or would you rather go after a guy who is a more solidified shortstop and then you can have Kike kind of just bounce around second base, go play some center field? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Kike can, go from center field to the infield at any given point. He's proven he can play second base or shortstop on spot starts here and there. But as far as, putting him at shortstop on a regular basis, that's going to be more stress on him. I would rather see him at second base and the Red Sox go acquire via trade or the free agency, the remaining players that are available. You have your choice. You mentioned a couple of them there with, Profar and Elvis. So, both of those guys are proven big league players, and they can definitely come in and, do the job until Trevor Story is back 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think the one guy that most Red Sox fans, at least on Twitter land, they seem to be more focused on Elvis Andrus. And hey, this is a guy, the one thing about Elvis Andrus early in his career, he's never been a big power guy. He's always been more of a contact guy, good amount of speed. That was the one thing that made him very successful during his time with Texas. He would also hit a lot of ground balls, but the guy could just beat out ground balls like there was no tomorrow. He could ground one over to second base and he could still beat it out. So that was one thing with Andrus. But going back to 2017, he had a career high 20 home runs in 2017, 88 RBIs. You started to see some more power. And last year he had 17 home runs. He had 58 RBIs. And the speed is still there, even though he's 34 years old, 18 stolen bases last year, 249 average. He actually did a lot better with the White Sox. It was kind of a weird trade going to the White Sox from Oakland, but in 43 games with Oakland, he hit 271 and he had a 464 slugging, 9 home runs with the White Sox. Look at the base running here, 4.4 base running. That's really solid. A 6.0 base running for the whole year. And the other thing with Andrus, he can play a good shortstop. So it makes a lot of sense for them to go after, someone like Elvis Andrus. I mean, sure, would you rather, just have Xander Bogaerts? Yeah, probably. But it is what it is. And I would not mind Elvis Andrus. And then you got someone like a Jerickson Profar. Like I said, if you do want to just have Kike play short, I agree with you. I think, this is a guy who had, problems with his hip last year. I would kind of like for, shortstop, a very demanding position. So I would like for Kike to, maybe just bounce between center field, second base. But Profar is there. This is a guy, he walks a ton, 11% walk percentage last year. Doesn't strike out a whole lot. He's always a tough at bat. So, but I have to share with you. The guy that I would love for the Red Sox to go after would be Ha-Sung Kim. This is a guy last year at the Padres. First year at the Padres, not a whole lot from him. But last year, this guy really proved himself, taking over Fernando Tatis Jr., hit 251, 325 on base. Not a whole lot of slugging, but the defense with him was so good last year. I would love to have someone like a Ha-Seong Kim. So I have to ask you this. Would you rather just sign Elvis Andrus, or would you rather go make a trade for someone like Ha-Seong Kim, who you would have under control for a couple of years? I mean, who knows what they would sign Elvis Andrus to? I would imagine they would probably just do like a 1-year deal, maybe with an option or something. But what route would you rather go? Would you rather just go sign Andrus, or would you go make a trade for someone like Kim, whose defense was off the charts last year, but that could come at the expense of maybe someone like a Tanner Houck and, maybe a prospect or two? What route would you like for the Red Sox to go?
At this point, I would not like to acquire Kim, in a trade. No, I would go out on the free agent market right now, get a solidified guy like Elvis Andrus and just bring him in. And, even if he hit 240 and up with the defense that he has on a daily basis, he's, like you said, it's a tough out each and every game. He's going to battle the pitcher. He's going to give you a chance at shortstop. I mean, and I love his track record. I love what he's done in the past. Yes. A lot of you look exactly that. What a player has done in the past, you see what he can do, you bring him in, and hopefully he can do the same thing with the Red Sox if they go that route.
Yeah, and that's another thing, Heim, he looks for that in these guys. Sure, he has brought in some guys that have had, maybe a couple issues off the field before, but with Elvis Andrus, this is a guy should fit right in with the clubhouse. He's a veteran. He's a pro. He's played in some World Series. This is a guy who would be a really solid veteran addition, I think, and I think would be a really good stopgap guy. And if we take a look, actually, last year, he was a 3.5 win player like that. I think Elvis Andrus really flew under the radar last year because he was with Oakland. The White Sox were basically out of it pretty much the entire season. So Elvis Andrus really flew under the radar last year. I think a lot of people had already kind of written him off. But no, he really showed himself that he's still got a lot left in the tank. So yeah, I would love Elvis Andrus if that is possible. We'll have to wait and see. The Marlins have shown some interest in him. So, we'll just have to, we'll have to wait and see where this all goes. But yeah, they definitely, I would say here, after the addition of Adam Duvall, I got to ask you, how are you, feeling about this Red Sox team as of right now?
Well, as of right now, I mean, it's a little different than what we anticipated, but, when injuries, you can never, expect an injury. You get a guy like Trevor Story who's goes out like that. So you have to kind of mix and match. And like I said, a guy like Elvis Andrus coming in, you have Kike who can play multiple positions. You just signed Adam Duvall. So you have to put things together, piece things together until you get a cohesive group and get everyone back 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I'm liking about this team is you got versatility on this team. I feel you got lefty bats, you got righty bats, you got guys that can play other positions, and you got, I think, I don't know these guys personally, I'm just saying, but good clubhouse guys, guys that have had good reputations in the past. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of liking this team a little bit. I think this could, if they make a couple more moves, like I said, if you could bring in someone like an Andrus, could you, maybe they go the route of a Ha-Seong Kim through a trade. I think it's more likely they go after the free agent, like you were saying. Yeah. Maybe one more starting pitcher for the rotation. Pablo Lopez, I think, would be very solid. It would cost a bit to get him. Could you go after someone like an Edward Cabrera on the Marlins? A very high upside. There's a couple more things I think the Red Sox can do. But I am starting to like this team. I think someone like a Masataka Yoshida has a lot of upside. I think he's going to be a guy I think he's flying under the radar. This is a guy, I was looking at the stats. He had very similar numbers to Ichiro, during his time. Very good on base, very good batting average. Ichiro had the higher batting average, but they actually had the same on base percentage in Japan. And Yoshida has a little bit more pop than Ichiro. Ichiro had the more speed, of course, and definitely was a better fielder out there. Incredible arm, but Yoshida, I think, could really be a surprise guy this year. I like the way this team is starting to look. You got depth in the rotation. You got a pretty good bullpen. I mean, I don't know. I think this could be a team as of right now. I think they could be in the running for a third wild card. I really do. But they're not. I don't think they're quite there yet. But I like what they're doing. There's versatility here. There's flexibility on the team. And I think they realized that last year as well. A lot of injuries. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of options here. And you got some guys in the minor leagues that could make an impact. Someone like a Brian Mata. You don't forget about, Bayo as well. There's a ton of options. I really like the depth of this team. Heimblum has got a lot of heat this offseason, just because of how everything turned out with Bogarts. The Devers extension took longer than people would have wanted. But in the end, this team is slowly coming together, and I'm pretty excited to see what this team can do. Not quite there, but I think this could end up being a fun team. So speaking of additions, really quick, I just wanted to touch on, we have also the Red Sox, not just adding Adam Duvall today, but they also added Jorge Alfaro. It's going to be more depth at the catching position. I was wondering if they were going to do something at catcher, but it looks like they're pretty set on just having Reese McGuire, Connor Wong, and now you have someone like Jorge Alfaro. And this is a guy who has been really interesting in his career. And actually, let me pull up here the StatCast numbers when it comes to him. Jorge Alfaro is a guy. Hold on one second. I don't know what is going on here. Here we go. Share the screen. Here we go. All right. So taking a look here, last year, he was in the top 3% when it came to max exit velocity. The guy can just hit the crap out of the ball, and he's got good speed for a catcher. He was up there in the top 15% when it came to speed or sprint speed. The framing, not so good, but he has a good arm. So, I'm wondering if he could really get himself some playing time. He's had pretty good power in the past. He's had, I think, a career high 18 home runs that came with the Marlins back in 2019. A lot of strikeouts with him. But what do you think here? Do you think this was just a good move, just adding some catching depth? Do you think this could end up being a under the radar kind of a signing? What do you think?
Well, it's a good move. I mean, like you say, you're adding catching depth, but also you're adding some kind of pop in that catcher position. Yeah. And like you say, he has some serious exit velocity. He can go out and hit your home runs, drive you some runs in. His defense, not top notch, but he's still learning and working hard at that position. I think that's a good sign for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think to me, I think they like Reese McGuire. This is a guy, he's very good defensively. I don't think they're really worried about Reese McGuire. You know what you're going to be getting with the bat. Not a whole lot of bat with McGuire, but you're going to get really good defense.
Right.
And Connor Wong, it's a young guy. To me, I look at this move more of like an insurance kind of a move. It's a guy you could just plug in there if Connor Wong is struggling with the bat. So either way, I like it. It's catching depth for the organization. You can never have too much catching depth in the organization. So shifting over here, not just free agents that the Red Sox have added, they have also been on the international signing market, and they actually made a pretty interesting signing. Taking a look here at the international signings for the Red Sox. Now, the top one, there is no relation to Yoenis Cespedes. This is a different Cespedes, but they signed Yoelin Cespedes out of the Dominican Republic. He's a shortstop guy, $1.4 million signing bonus. He was the 25th ranked international prospect. Let's just go over here the scouting report for Mr. Cespedes. And again, there is no relation to Yoenis Cespedes. But on MLB Pipeline, again, number 25 overall. As of right now, he's only 17 years old, but he's got a 50 hit tool. They already have him at a 55 power, 55 run, 50 arm, and 50 in the field. But taking a look here at SoxProspects.com, the scouting report that they have for him, he's a highly regarded international signing, quick wrists, compact swing, above average raw power. Good approach for his age. Will start at shortstop, but may need to move to second or third eventually because of the average arm and average speed. Solid makeup. Hey, I got to ask you. You had a very good scouting report yourself when you got to the major leagues. When you see a scouting report like this, what are you thinking?
Well, I also see young Cespedes been kind of compared to Howie Kendrick, and that's
yes
right there. Anytime you can go out and someone can see something in you as a young player that reminds them of a former major league player, that's a good quality. And for him to do that, I tell you what, he must have shown some people a lot of good things. Number 25 in the top 50 international players, and I tell you that 50 grade, 55 you said in hitting, 50 in power and speed.
Yeah, 50 hit and 55 power at 17 years old.
That's pretty good at 17 years old.
Yeah. He's 5'9", 180. So I could see where the comparisons come out with a Howie Kendrick.
Yep.
A little more of a compact guy. But what I really like, this is what I'm actually starting to like more about these scouting reports now. Sure, I love reading things like quick wrists, compact swing, bat speed. I love reading stuff like that. But I always like when I see something like solid makeup in a scouting report. That to me, I've noticed that the Red Sox over the years, they tend to go for guys like that. You always see something like that in the scouting report. What do you think? Do you think that more often than not, guys who have that in their scouting report tend to end up being more successful, or what do you think?
Well, I tell you what, when you have that solid makeup, when they say that, especially when you're spending that kind of money, you're talking $1.5, $2 million, $2.5 million on a prospect. He has to have good makeup because at that big league level, it's going to continue to get better and better and better. So, yeah, that's one thing that I would definitely be looking for as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, Yoenis Cespedes, we had him for a little bit at one point back in, 2014, 2015, can't remember the year, but maybe this Cespedes could end up being with the Red Sox for the long haul. But Ellis, I mean, that is really all we got for tonight. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. I mean, the Trevor Story news was pretty big.
Yeah.
Adding Adam Duvall, I think, was a big move. And they still got work to do. What are your closing thoughts on tonight's episode?
Well, like I said, injuries, you can never really control an injury, but once it happens, you have to go out and try to get someone that can come in and do the job just as well or equally until Trevor Story gets back. And for me, that would be a Elvis Drake. I mean, he can go out and play. You've seen his track record in Texas. You've seen it in Oakland. He's going to give you solid at-bats. He's going to go out and play 100-plus games. So, yeah, that's the kind of guy you would like to have. He's great in the clubhouse. Obviously, he's a winning player, been in 2 World Series. So, yes, I think that would be a smart move and a good move for the Red Sox.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm starting to like the way this team is coming together. And I think they could be a team. I think a lot of people have written off the Red Sox. But, I made a bit of a tweet today on Twitterland. The Phillies, they were 2 wins away from a World Series. And they only won 87 games last year in the regular season. The Red Sox can find a way in. When you're in, you never know what could happen. So I have to just wait and see. But I'm sure we will have some more news by the time we have our next episode. But I'm getting excited, Ellis, man. We're getting close to the season. We're going to be doing some previews eventually, and then we're going to start getting into the games, and we can start just talking about, recapping, the week or however many episodes we end up having, during the week or whatever. I can't wait for that, man. I'm starting to get that juice again. Spring training coming around. It's always a good time, but the snow is still thawing out there. Not quite there yet, but we'll get there eventually. So, alrighty, man. Well, that's all we have for tonight, everyone. Don't forget about tonight's sponsor, Bet Online. Use the code BLEAV, BLEAV. You get a 50% welcome bonus. But everyone, go have yourself a great night, and we will see you next time. Ellis, man, have yourself a great night. And everyone, have a great night.
Good night.